Hello everyone, it is the me again, Penguin21, and today, well, we're going to be talking about Reforge Gaming again. And yeah, I know, I'm probably going to be talking about him the rest of this week, because it's going to be like a Reforge Gaming week. It's just one of those things. Because he has interesting clips to talk about, and he, generally speaking, is very easy to talk about, because I can use him as an example of some reasons why people would make weird arguments, and then talk about it, because he tends to have very weird arguments. Just makes sense. But, of course, this time we're not talking about anything specific. I am aware of the Ghost of Tsushima type salt that's going to be probably happening. I want to wait a little bit longer, maybe until the release, to kind of talk more about that. But right now, I want to talk about Reforge Gaming and how he essentially calls himself a tester of sorts for Xbox games because he owns an Xbox Series X, I guess. Very odd, very weird clip. This is going to be a long one, so yeah, buckle up. With that being said, I do want to know that I am, again, pushing for that 1K subscribers. We're getting closer and closer every single day. Again, I cannot thank you enough for this amount of support that I've been getting with the last few dozen of my videos. Y'all are just doing great, and I do so love you. Again, like, comment, favorite, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you want to see more of my content, I do post and make music on the occasion in the Bandcamp down in the description below. Go and listen to some of my music, maybe throw me a few shekels so you can buy some of it, or just have it because I like to make music. And number 3, I do stream on Twitch, mostly the weekends. You're gonna just have to be on there to be able to when I do it, because it's just, my schedule just becomes all over the place. So again, that's just how it works. I'm looking to maybe do more, but right now, not really a possibility. Anyway, with that being said, let's get started with this video.
Sell your Xbox? No, having the Xbox as a content creator is important because I need to be able to test games when they come out. If a game actually comes out with a performance mode, I need to be able to play it on my Series X to show, oh, maybe they are getting better. Maybe they push out an update for Hellblade 2. I don't know. I'm not going to get rid of my Series X. Like, that doesn't solve a problem. That doesn't, like, as a content creator, that doesn't make any sense for me to do that. Like, I need to be able to test Indiana Jones and Avowed and other games. Or again, Plague Tale Requiem pushed out a performance patch for them. They push out a 60 FPS patch in the future.
Okay, so notice what his wording is here. And I want to make this very clear. I never really like the way Reforge Gaming kind of words the way that he speaks. Because the way that he speaks very, I don't want to say matter-of-factly, because I also speak very matter-of-factly. He speaks very arrogantly, something like that, or at least that's the way I feel it, or the way I perceive it. I could be wrong, and I most likely am. But the thing is, right? Notice what he said. He said, oh, I need to be able to test the game, because I need to have this sort of, better fucking, he's gonna bring it up later, but, like, he needs to have more credibility whenever he's talking about this game and saying, hey, they might make an improvement, they might increase it, they might be better. To which, all I see is someone saying, oh, they might do this, but I don't have faith that they will. It's like, huh? Again, this goes to show you one of the things where a lot of these Sony guys are like, oh, well, yeah, but if they do improve, that's when I'm going to be switching over. But until that day, I'm sticking to it. I mean, I know that the amazing Lucas kind of said that a while back, where he's like, oh, well, the Sony might be doing this, he might be doing that. Speaking of which, I should probably check in on him, see how he's doing. Maybe make a video. But that's a thing for another day. But yeah, that's one of those things where it's like, oh, but like, you should have it because you don't, I don't know. Unless it's your job to, quote, actually test games, which I don't think Reforge does, and you'll see why in a minute. I don't think that you would need a Series X or S, unless you absolutely wanted it as, like, your main gaming thing, which is fine. Again, Series X and S is totally fine if you want to go ahead and game, but you don't need one, technically speaking. Okay, so future me, you can actually edit out most of that other part, and basically, going to just say, there is a lot of silence there until the part where he talks about his testing, so skip to this section here, and yeah.
What kind of test do you do? I turn on the game and I play it? What? I don't do benchmarks and tech tests and, like, frame counting or any of that. I can boot up a game and tell you how well it's running.
Oh boy, let's tear this one apart. Now, one of, if not the biggest reasons why testing is different from playing, participating, or anything else is because testing provides data. Now, that data is not at all usually supposed to be biased. The reason why you are not testing the game rather than playing it and feeling out the game's feel is you're just playing the game and then giving your opinion on it. Your opinion is not backed up with facts because at the same time you don't provide any data to it. That's the difference. Saying that you boot up a game to, quote, test it usually means that you are running experiments and you are running things to get the raw data. As a weird example, let's look at Resident Evil Village, or was it the Resident Evil Village? I believe it was, where Denuvo absolutely fucking screwed that game every time you fired your gun. That's one of those things where you wouldn't necessarily feel it just by watching it, or sometimes you wouldn't even feel it by playing it, but at the same time, you'd be able to feel something was off, but you wouldn't know what without the actual raw data and numbers to prove your point. So, rather than calling it testing, why don't you just say, I play on my Series X, rather than anything else? Because just playing a game and then forming your opinion around it is different because you are stopping at the hypothesis stage. A hypothesis is usually an opinion that you hold that you want to test in order to make sure that it works. And you provide the data and the other experiments to it to be able to, justify your original hypothesis. This is called the scientific method. You learn this in fucking elementary school, Mr. Reforge Gaming. Dude. You're not testing the game if you are just playing the game and not gathering raw data, and actual raw, unfiltered data, not done in by any of your biases towards Xbox or PlayStation, right? That's not testing because you're not doing the scientific experiment. And I know you can do like scientific studies or like stuff like that, but the reason why every other tech channel provides those benchmarks and stuff is for the credibility. To back up their claims that, hey, this is the reason why, here's all of the data to support this. It's the same thing with an online or a debate type stuff. Whenever you write an essay, here's my examples, here's my opinion, here's the sources so you can double check my standards. That's very simple to do.
What do you mean, what kind of tests do? I played Redfall when it came out on my Xbox Series X. I played Starfield when it came out on my Xbox Series X just to see if I could tolerate it. Hellblade 2 is going to be on Game Pass. I'll install it on my Series X and I'll say, all right, let's see how this looks. And I'll be like, gross. And then I'll go play on my PC.
And therein lies the problem. See, the reason why you're getting a lot of shit for this, Mr. Reforge, is because you're not testing the game. You are merely giving your opinion on the game. Not only are you merely giving your opinion on the game, you're going in there with a pre-notion expectation to hate it. That whole, that's very telling that that's not unbiased, unfiltered data that you can take and, raw do it. And again, that's one of, if not the biggest reasons why you're not testing the game. Because a test implies that you are trying to gather data for something, not just give your opinion on something. Testing a game on a system or a console requires those datas and numbers because it needs to be proven that's the problem. You need to prove the problem exists. You can't just look at it and say, oh, well, this just is not correct. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this sort of testing stuff works. It doesn't. Pure and simple. Right? So not testing a game, you're just playing a game and then giving your opinion on it. That's just a review. It's just a first impressions. It's not testing if you don't provide, say, hey, here's the frameage on it, here's the other stuff, and here's then the specs and things to be able to do that, because that allows your test to be redone. That's, again, one of the reasons why I'm bringing up the scientific method. You test and you test and you test, you provide the evidence, and then a person can go ahead, use your test, and see if they get the same results. Saying, oh, this game sucks because it's at 30 FPS and I don't really like the feel of the game, you can't necessarily prove that because that, in and of itself, is not a test. That's just your opinion. That's not how this works. You're not testing a game. You are basically just playing the game, giving your opinion / review, and then moving on. If you really wanted to test the game, you'd be providing benchmarks. You'd be providing stat sheets and statistics and stuff. Because that's how testing works. Literally learned this in elementary school with the science fair, dude. That's how it works. You're not testing. You're doing just playing and consuming a product.
All that would happen if I got rid of my Series X is people would be like, how can you speak about how that game runs? You don't even have a Series X, Lono. These ravenous weirdos who hate watch and like look for any inconsistency they can find. Like, quick, get that 45-second clip so we can make it look like this guy is a fraud, right? Like a vested interest in that. That's all they would do. Is if I got rid of my Series X, Avowed would come out and I'd be talking about its performance on Series X and be like, yeah, I'm playing on PC, and they'd be like, look at this fraud talking about the Series X, he doesn't even have one.
I mean, that seems like a reasonable explanation to me. If you're talking about the performance on the Series X and you're, say, citing your sources, say, hey, Digital Foundry ran all these tests, go ahead, here's my source, link it in the description, then you know what? I would be like, all right, so I will look into that. I wouldn't say that you're necessarily a fraud. I would just say that you're reporting on a different thing. But if you're saying, oh, I have first-hand account and I've done first-hand testing, and you provide nothing of your own numbers and your own data points to back up that claim, then you're a fraud because you don't have the data to support your hypothesis / opinion. It's very simple. Whether or not you have the Series X, in my mind, is irrelevant. If you like the Series X and you like to play the Series X, go right ahead and play the game. Just don't say that you're testing it when you're not providing data, you're not providing the inputs, outputs, and other stuff. Or, again, inputs, outputs, and other stuff is very odd to say. You know what I mean. Don't talk about the Series X in a way that it's hard to really explain it, because talking about the Series X is kind of your job, but don't just lie, you know? Don't just lie and say, oh, this is bad on this system. And then you'd shoot back, oh, well, that's why I have it, so I can play it and test it. But if you're not providing the test results, we're going to have a problem. That's where I have my problem. It's not the fact that you're, quote, testing the game. It's the fact that your testing produces nothing of value or anything to it. Also, I love the self-awareness of, oh, let's get the 45-second clip. Motherfucker, you got clipped 10 minutes. I'm probably not going to get through this whole thing.
Like they're so hungry that they don't even understand when I publish a screenshot of 37 hours in Hellblade 1 with 3 clears, and the guy's like, but you've never completed it because I've missed a trophy. There's a spot in the game where if you go too far, you can't go back, and I miss the dadgum rune every time.
Look up a guide and get the trophy fairly easily, or just reload the last save from that point. It's kind of simple. Also, by the way, that person's probably a troll. Don't listen to him. I'm going to be cutting a little bit out here because, again, he just spends a lot of time not talking, so, yeah.
Who cares what people say? Enjoy the game in its best form. Right, but as a video game commentator, as a gaming news channel, I need to be able to say, I have every platform. I played that game. I tried it out. Here was my experience. That's important. I'm not going to do frame-by-frames and side-by-sides. I don't think that's how testing works, bro.
It's not, and I've told you exactly why and how testing works. What you are currently doing is you are giving a review of the actual game and your first impressions and thoughts rather than actually testing it. Because again, testing implies that you provide results and data points and numbers, and giving your opinion requires you to do none of that. Again, in a court of law, you'd have to provide the results for what you're doing. Oh, but it's not a court of law, it's a court of public opinion. It's kind of the same thing, but again, You need to provide that evidence and that frame data and that side-by-side to prove the point to which platform you're doing. And again, providing all of that information up front and being very transparent about it rather than just saying, oh, I test and I found this without providing data to back it up will ruin your credibility overall.
What's amazing about this conversation is I don't care what you think testing is. I don't care. Like, I don't go and, like, check with you, like, hey, am I allowed to use this word, right? I want to test this game when it comes out. You understand the word has a range of meaning, right? Like, anybody can test a game when it comes out. Yeah, I tested it out. It ran pretty well. Oh, thanks for telling me that. Or do you gut check all your friends? Oh, you tested it? Huh? Are you Digital Foundry now? No, you don't do that. You're being
correct. But at the same time, when someone says it in a conversation, they usually mean that they played it in that context. Again, it means more of a casual conversation. In the context that you provided, yeah, saying someone, oh, I tested the game out, doesn't necessarily mean that you gut check them and tell them and push them for information. Oh, but you're pushing me for information, Reforge might say. Well, I am, because of two things. Number one, you say that you are a gaming news channel and that you hold yourself up to a specific standard. Guess what that standard is? That standard needs to be somewhere along the lines of, say, Digital Foundry or any of the other actual reviewers out there who provide this information up front. It provides research, it provides credibility, and provides the other stuff. You call yourself a credible source. You call yourself a news channel to report on this situation. You should hold yourself to a higher standard, i.e. providing that information of what you played, how you played it, and at what settings you provided it to, and then provide some of the frame rates and data points because that helps informs your viewers. Doing none of what I just said isn't testing because of the fact that you don't provide those data points, and you are being held to a higher standard in this context because you hold yourself as a pinnacle of truth, quote unquote, and also because you are a gaming news channel in the sense that you need to provide the information and data points that I stated earlier. If you don't do any of the work to do testing in terms of reporting and in terms of posting videos like that, it is not a test. It is a review / first impressions to practically everyone. There's a reason why I don't provide anything other than, say, reviews or first impressions whenever I post a video on a specific topic or a specific game. I don't do that because it's not the same thing as testing a game.
Persnickety and pedantic for no reason. I can boot up a game on my Series X, play it, and I can make an approximation of how it's running. Is there pop-in? Is there stuttering? Is there hitches? Are there crashes? How's the lighting look? How's the texture look? Is the game running smoothly and is it running well? You want to try to, discredit me because I'm not doing like a frame-by-frame analysis frame counter like Digital Foundry. Go right ahead. My brand isn't centered around that content anyway. You're trying to check my credentials, and I'm not claiming to have any. I'm saying I boot up the game. I've been playing games for a really long time. I can tell you if it's running well.
I love how he actually, if you think about that, he kind of hypocritically just outs himself within the sentence here. He says, oh, I don't have any credentials for it, yet does the standard logical fallacy of appeal to false authority, which is saying, oh, I've been playing games for years and decades up until this point. I know how a game should run. That there is technically credentials, but it's credentials that mean fuck all. What I would also like to say here is the fact that, yes, we are going to gut check you in this context because you are claiming to be a news and reporting channel. Meaning that if you are actually claiming to test the games you are talking about, you need to provide those data points for people because that's how reporting works. That's how a lot of things work in that context. And yes, certainly, testing in this context could mean just playing the game standardly. Playing the game standardly is fine. Playing the game and just giving your opinion on it is fine. Just don't call it testing if you're not actually providing data and points to be used to in other experiments or other tests for that same thing to be able to repeat the stuff that you got. Say, for example, I say, oh, I played this game on my Series X. Game X ran pretty well until I hit this specific point, and then it crashed on me. I think that this game is terrible. Therefore, this game is terrible because it crashed on me at this point. If that point where it crashes is consistent across the board, that is then technically a test provided by the other people. Because you didn't provide every other point to that actual thing because there could have been other things running. Your power could have gone out. Your internet could have gone out. The game itself didn't have problems. Maybe the Xbox itself kind of shit the bed for the day. You don't know. Because you don't provide that data and you're just saying, oh, the game crashed once. That's not a data point. That's just your experience. A data point is if you consistently can get the same results over and over and over again. That's why the scientific method exists. That's why testing is different from just playing a video game. And a full-on tech review is different than just talking and giving your opinion about a game.
For example, I've constantly given people feedback on the performance of Rise of the Ronin. Has anybody once been like, yeah, but did you get out a frame counter? Did you do a Digital Foundry comparison? Did you do a benchmark test? No, nobody did that because they know that when you play a game and you analyze its performance, you can tell if it's running well or not, or if it's hitching, or if it's frame dropping. It's not hard. It's easy to see.
To you, but not to everyone. And those frame counters and stuff, again, aren't necessarily the reason why people are gut-checking you about this. They're asking you about this because they want the specific data to be able to know what they need to change or what the problem is. Or to understand what your testing environment is. Oh, but it's on the Xbox, so you should be able to look it up and do that other stuff. You expect people to look all that shit up? That's kind of your job because you provide the gaming news in that context. So, you know.
That's not what you said earlier. I said that I'm going to keep my Series X so I can test the games when they come out. Like, I feel like you're hungry for a clip. You're hungry for a fight. What are we even discussing? I said, just off the cuff, I wasn't being super technical. I want to keep my Series X so when these games come out, I can test them out and see how they run. And if I have to then retreat to my PC, I will. There's nothing wrong with me saying that. That's just like me playing Rise of the Ronin and saying, yeah, I'm going to test it out. I'm going to see how it's running. It looked rough in the trailers. And then I report back to you, yes, in the open world and in the towns, it's pretty stuttery. The frames aren't consistent. I've not had anybody gut check.
But that's not technically testing the game. That's more just playing it and then giving your opinion on it. Saying anything else specific and then providing data points saying, hey, here's the side-by-side, here is the everything, most people would be considering testing. It's not testing if you don't provide those data points, is what I'm saying. Saying that you just had these problems is just giving your experience. If other people can corroborate that experience into a thing with actual data points and we get like some sort of chart going, then yeah, that's technically a test. But you need to provide that information. You need to provide what happened, where it was, how bad it was. Give us points as to what it is. The whole chart reason is to give you more credibility. To give you more of that, here's what happened, and here's the reasons why. Here's the data that I have to provide, so you can look at it and check my work. Like, that's what data points are for. That's what the testing is for. That's what the providing the data and information is for, so we can check your credentials. The reason why I'm calling it a review and not actual testing is because of the fact that you don't provide data. In the example that you gave, you provided no data. You just provided your opinion and your own experience, which isn't testing. Because I could probably have the same thing, same system, same stuff, and I could have a completely different and fine experience with no crashes, no frame stuttering, no nothing. That's the problem. You're just giving your opinion. You're not testing the game. You're just playing it and then giving your opinion on it. That's a review. That's a first impressions. That's not testing the game. That's not pushing the game's limits to see what could happen. That's not how testing works.
My credentials in the comments being like, "Oh, yeah, but you didn't do a benchmark and a frame analysis check, and you didn't count the frames like Digital Foundry did." Nobody's done that. Why? Because the average gamer can play a game and report back to you very generally about the performance. I've been playing and covering games for 10 years. I have experience with analyzing frame drops and frame stutters with my capture cards. Like, I'm very adept at detecting if there are frame stutters or frame drops or resolution changes. I remember the first time I played Ghost of Tsushima, the director's cut, and I played it on my brand new awesome TV, and I said, yeah, I can tell when the resolution's dropping a little bit when I'm on the horse. How you test it? That's not the explanation you...
Don't you just love how earlier in there he said, oh, well, I'm not providing that sort of information because I don't usually use my credentials to, talk about the games in the way that I do? I'm fairly certain that was a little bit earlier. What a very hypocritical statement to say, where he just then gives his entire credentials and says, hey, I've been playing games and doing this for years. Again, technically speaking, an appeal to false authority, but, who cares? There's another 2 minutes of this, but I think that I've got the general point across here. The point being is this. Testing and playing and reviewing are very different in terms of what they mean and what they provide. All right? When you review a game and give your first impressions on it and talk about it, that usually implies that you're giving your opinion on it. You don't need to provide data and stuff to back up your own opinion. You could just say, hey, this is my opinion. Here's what it is. Go and play the game. Go and do X if you want to test my stuff. And then maybe list out sources and stuff like that. That's the equivalent of writing an essay to your English professor, right? Testing, on the other hand, is providing data points and information and providing a conclusion and a result that is and can be repeatable in future experiments. The reason why testing is different from a review and giving your opinion is because, you can have a very stupid, terrible, bad experience with a video game, but that might not be on the game's fault. It might be because your technology's fucked up. It might be because your internet fucked up. It might be because the technology is a little bit older and it's not exactly the same thing. That's not necessarily a problem. You just have to redo the tests and redo it under the same circumstances. The reason why testing is very different and why Digital Foundry provides those numbers and those talking points is because they have the data to back it up. The data is what's important and differentiates reviewing and giving your opinion, which is what Reforge Gaming says, where he's like, oh, well, the game ran poorly for me. And Digital Foundry, who says, okay, so we tested it on several different machines, we provided all of this, and here's the chart, and here's the way that you can do it, and provide all the information so you can double check our work and make sure that we're doing a good job. It gives more credibility when you provide those numbers. Saying that you test the game on a platform merely by playing it and using your own feeling, that's not testing. That's reviewing, and that is only your opinion. Until you provide actual data points and provide actual data that is your own from your own experience and your own experiments and testing purposes and in your testing environment, it's not testing. Full stop. That's not how testing works. Anyway, I think that I've talked your ear off for long enough for this. There were a couple times in the video where I had to skip around where he basically just said a whole load of nothing. And again, I'm not going to go into the rest of this video because I have been recording for like a very long time. And Reforge Gaming is one of those people where you just can't talk about him for more than like 30 minutes without like having your brain melt. In any case, I do want to thank you all so much for watching. My name is GamePenguin21. If you want links down to any of my socials in the description below, to the Bandcamp, to the Gumroad, to the other stuff, I do stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/GamePenguin21. Please like, comment, favorite, and subscribe because I am looking to hit 1K by the end of the year. And again, thank you all so much for watching if you made it this far into the video. My name is GamePenguin21, Reforge Gaming. Stop trying to test on the Series X and or provide actual data points, and a peace.